In this episode, we're diving deep into a topic that's both tender and powerful: soul food at work. What it means to feed your spirit, to find joy, gratitude, meaning in the workday, and how that not only changes people's lives, but transforms organizations. Happiness is more than an optional extra, people. It's a competitive advantage. When people feel nourished, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, they are more productive, more creative, and more committed. Yet so often, what feeds our souls lies outside the 9 to 5, not inside. So today I want to explore how we bring more soul food into the workplace. Welcome to Reimagining HR with Trina Sunday, the rule-breaking podcast where we challenge our thinking and our current people practices. This podcast is for time-poor HR teams and business leaders who are feeling the burn, lacking laughs, and not feeling the love. I'm Trina, your host, and I'm here to cut through the BS, explore different ways of thinking, and create high-impact HR functions. Because happier, healthier organizations are better for our people and our bottom line. So if you are keen to flip traditional HR on its head, hit the follow or subscribe button so you're the first to know when new episodes drop. I'm here to help and also to shake things up. So let's get started. What is soul food for the workplace? Like, what am I on about? How do you define soul food? I'm not talking about your partner's gourmet cooking. That's got its place. I mean those experiences, small or large, that awaken something in you. Belonging, purpose, connection, gratitude, recognition, doing something meaningful. The things that when you leave work, you feel energized, alive, rather than depleted. But I know what it looks and feels like to be starving your soul. And it's not pretty. So let me share. For much of my career, I watched corporate HR, the very profession that's supposed to be about people, drift into something almost soulless, even soul-destroying, to be honest. We were ticking boxes instead of changing lives. Leadership authenticity was replaced by compliance, and fear-based management had become the norm. We were teaching managers to minimize risk, not maximize humanity. And slowly, something in me began to shrink. I remember walking into boardrooms where conversations about engagement were reduced to spreadsheets and, HR leaders, including me at times, were measuring hearts and minds in headcount reports, chasing KPIs that had nothing to do with the spirit of our people. And instead of lifting people up, the systems were making them small. And I realized, and this was some 11 years ago now, that is not why I entered the HR profession. So after years of volunteering in Cambodia, I knew the contrast. There, I'd been welcomed into communities where connection, generosity, and hope were everyday currencies. But I'd come home and I felt like my soul was starving. I reached a point where I knew I needed more than a job. I needed work that fed me, real soul food. So I decided to do something radical. And if you've known me for a while, then you're going to have a bit of a sense of what that is. But I said yes to pro bono consulting, to giving my expertise away in service of something much bigger than myself. I wanted to reconnect with purpose, to find out if my skills could make a difference beyond a corporate profit margin. And that's when I was connected with an international non-government organisation in Cambodia that was looking for an organisational development specialist to help transform its operations. The math didn't really work though. It made absolutely no financial sense. It made no career sense. But every fibre of my intuition was saying, this is the way. Sign me up. And 5 weeks later, I'd resigned from my corporate role, packed up my life, and landed in Phnom Penh. And from the moment I arrived, something shifted. Yes, the air was humid and electric, and so was my hair, but tuk-tuks buzzed, street food sizzled, and everywhere I went, people looked me in the eye, knocked down at the pavement, with curiosity and warmth. I wasn't just doing work, I was living in the work of my soul. And for the next 4 years, I had soul food served up to me about 80% of the time, at work outside of work, all around me. It wasn't perfect, but life was full of joy, generosity, and connection. I was attracting opportunities, friendships, ideas, things that felt almost magical. Call it manifesting if you like, but doors opened, synchronicities unfolded, and I was constantly reminded that when you step into alignment, life conspires to support you. And my life will never be the same. Once you've tasted good nutrition for your body or your soul, you can't go back to junk food without noticing how it makes you feel. Your soul starts to command more from you, and over time you realize you deserve more. Full disclaimer, I'm still working on the food nutrition habits. I haven't nailed them all yet, and I'll always be upfront with you. But I had so much clarity over my soul food needs. What I craved was space to bring myself, my values, my intuition, my sense of joy into what I did. And in Cambodia, I found roles where leaders would ask, "How are you?" and mean it. We would begin meetings with, "What's one thing you're grateful for?" And I felt more alive. I left workshops with leaders telling me that I'd blown their minds and changed their life. Like, those moments were part of what fed my soul, right? And here's where I lean into the woo-woo just a little bit more. Like, I had a heightened realization that everything is energy. How you show up matters. The intentions you set matter. Gratitude, kindness, intuition, they're not soft skills. They're powerful currents. So when you dial up your awareness of that energy, work transforms. And you don't have to move to Phnom Penh to find it. It's a bit dramatic. But you do have to be intentional. That's why I'm so passionate about helping workplaces and individuals to rediscover their own soul food. And the evidence backs this up, right? And you've likely heard all of these stats before. But we know from the research that highly engaged teams have about 21 to 23% higher profitability, than less engaged counterparts. High engagement increases productivity. Increased productivity increases profitability. We need engaged workforces. Engaged workforces are those that are fed to the brim on soul food. Disengaged or not fully engaged employees aren't just less happy, they cost our organisations and our economies. Some estimates put global losses from poor engagement in the trillions of dollars per year. Not billions, trillions, right? Low engagement costs about 8.8 trillion annually. I can't even get my head around those numbers. So soul food is not fluff. It's foundational. It's not a fringe benefit. It's part of how thriving workplaces are built. So what's on the menu? Healthy eating versus healthy culture, right? Let's use an analogy that we all understand, food. Just as our physical diet can nourish or harm us, so too can workplace culture. And a healthy culture, I think of it like that balanced meal, right? Psychological safety, purpose, autonomy, gratitude, and human connection. Where a toxic culture is like ultra-processed junk food. It's constant pressure without rest, lack of recognition, fear, micromanagement, disconnection. Toxic workplaces give you that quick sugar rush, right? It's adrenaline, it's urgency. But over time, they erode health and spirit. Where balanced and nourishing cultures, they take more intention to prepare, but they create sustainable energy and performance. I'm getting some meal planning vibes here. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, right? It's woo-woo. And people say to me sometimes, "Trina, could you just be a little less woo-woo? There's no place for woo-woo in business." But as if being human, intuitive, and energy aware is somehow a liability. Like, it's my superpower, team. And here's the science behind some of what you might call woo-woo. And it is far less mystical than it all seems, right? First, intuition. Neuroscientists estimate that your brain processes around 11 million bits of information a second. 11 million. Yet we are only consciously aware of about 40 at a time. 40 bits, of 11 million bits of information every second. Think of the iceberg. Small, tiny tip above the water, vast expanse below. That hidden processing, it draws on memories, patterns, sensory cues, the emotional signals that you are not consciously tracking. When you get that gut feeling, it is your brain doing ultra-fast pattern recognition and delivering a signal in the form of instinct. It's far from irrational. Intuition is a supercomputer running quietly in the background. Get me one of those. I am a walking supercomputer. It's one of my strengths, is my intuition. But the second thing is like mirror neurons. So these are the brain cells that fire not only when you perform an action, but when you observe someone else doing it. They're a neurological basis for empathy, right? It is literally wiring us to feel what others feel. And in a leadership context, this means that your tone of voice, your posture, even your micro expressions are contagious. And that's the third thing. It's emotional contagion. Like research shows that moods spread through groups like a cold or a flu, right? Or a song that's stuck in your head that you then hum out loud and it's then stuck in everyone else's head for the rest of the day. A leader's anxiety, optimism, or their calmness can ripple through a team's physiology and behaviour. It impacts creativity, collaboration, and the team's decision-making. Think of meetings where one person's tension changes the whole atmosphere in the room. That's emotional contagion at work. And finally, flow states. Psychologist Mihi Csikszentmihalyi coined the term flow to describe those moments of total absorption and effortless performance. In flow, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that's tied to self-consciousness and overthinking, it quiets the hell down, freeing up creativity, problem solving, and peak productivity. So when workplaces align people's strengths with meaningful tasks, they create more flow. And that's a recipe for both joy and high performance. So if you put those four things together and the so-called woo-woo begins to look like a science-backed leadership toolkit. Intuition as rapid intelligence, mirror neurons as empathy circuitry, emotional contagion as your team performance multiplier, and flow as a neurobiological doorway to excellence. You're welcome. Come on in. Imagine the impact if more leaders consciously use these levers rather than dismissing them as fluff. Imagine. But how do we do it? How do we feed people's souls at work? How do we bring soul food into the workplace? And some of this stuff isn't new, but we are certainly not being deliberate about it, not intentional enough. It's the things like recognition as nourishment, but that's making appreciation specific and frequent and authentic. It's autonomy and trust. Give people decision-making power and flexibility. It's purpose alignment, helping employees see the bigger why behind their work. And we talk about that all the time. But do we do it intentionally? Are we deliberate in the habits we are trying to form that give people that purpose alignment? I'm not sure that we are. We say it, but I'm not sure we're helping to craft the habits that bring that to reality. And micro rituals, like start meetings with gratitude, celebrate small wins, or have mindful pauses. I can't tell you the amount of corporate eye rolls I get when I suggest this to an exec team. HR teams generally more receptive, exec teams not so much. But most people love it once they embrace the rituals. And then you just rely on the emotional contagion to do its thing. It's also creating a safe space for energy checks. Energy is everything to me, and I talk to my clients about this all the time. We need to normalize asking, what do you need today? Or where's your energy at? Like, energy is finite and you only have so much to give. And it's more precious than time, in my view. So embrace more habits in energy management over time management. This isn't about perks or gimmicks. All of these things are about creating a workplace diet that feeds the whole human being. When organisations embed these soul food practices, right, it has massive impacts. Things you would expect, right? Increased productivity and performance, lower turnover and absenteeism, better employee health and reduced burnout, better cultures, brands, all that good stuff. Increased creativity and resilience. When people feel valued and nourished, they stay, they innovate, and they thrive. Healthy workplace culture vibes, anyone? But as we wrap up, here's my challenge to you. Identify your own soul food. What is it in your day that nourishes you? And conversely, what is it that drains you? Pick one soul food practice and introduce it into your team or workday this week. And if you're a leader, consider how you can model being more woo-woo. Get on board the woo-woo train. It's awesome. But what it's about is letting people see your intuition, your care, your energy. Because when we feed our people's souls, we don't just make work more bearable, we make it more human, more vibrant, more effective. Imagine that. If this episode resonated, please share it with someone who's hungry for a better workplace. Better still, serve them up some soul food. Better still, sit down with them and feast. After all, breaking bread's known for being good for the soul. It's a universal act of connection, right? And connection is everything. It fosters a sense of community, of trust, and a sense of belonging. Soul food is good for humanity, but it's also good for business. Bon appetit. Thanks for tuning in and leaning in to this week's episode as we look to reimagine how we show up for our people, organisations, and community. Reach out to us via our website at reimaginehr.com.au with your HR horror stories or suggestions of people you'd love to hear from or topics you want to explore. It's all about people, purpose, and impact, and we are here for all of it. Until next time, take care, team.